Hello and welcome. You're just in time for KBC Channel 1's Lunchtime News. My name is Allan Aoko. Let's get started. Now, Coast Regional Commissioner John Elung'ata has ordered the immediate reopening of health facilities in Lamu County that were closed in 2014 following frequent attacks by suspected Al-Shabaab militants. Elung'ata said the decision has been informed by the increasing cases of COVID-19 disease at the county. Lamu County has 36 cases of COVID-19 disease.
Speaking while he inspected an ongoing national hygiene program dubbed Kazi Mtaani in Baragoni, Lamu County, Coast Regional Commissioner John Elung'ata said that the national government was ready to commit resources towards reopening of the health facilities that have remained closed since 2014.
Kama chief sasa yuko, mbona tuwatoe madaktari? Tafadhali, kwa wakati huu wa COVID, labda kuna watu wetu naumia kule ndani. Tuwapeleke madaktari huko, tutawachunga. Kama vile tulisema tutachunga walimu, hata madaktari tutawachunga on a 24-hour basis. So tafadhali tusaidiane.
Elung'ata said the health facilities are crucial in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The 5 facilities in Baragoni, Mangai, Milimani and Bodei in Lamu West were closed after they were targeted by suspected Al-Shabaab militants. Elsewhere, over 200 residents in low-income settlements areas in Nakuru have benefited from a donation of relief supplies, including soaps, water tanks and cash from Midrift Handwrit, a humanitarian organization in the area.
Tusaidia kwa vitengo kadhaa kama vile kutuletea mask, kutusaidia na voucher ambayo itatusaidia kununua chakula ambacho kitatusaidia kujikimu kimaisha. Tunawashukuru pia kwa kutuletea tanki ya maji ambayo pia itatusaidia kusanifisha mikono ili kupigana na hili janga la corona.
Kutokana na ile msaada wa matangi ambayo ni ya kuweka maji katika sehemu ambazo zile ambazo zinafaa ambazo ziko na watu wengi ili kwamba wakaweza kunawa, na pia tunaambiwa ya kwamba 60% ya kupigana na ugonjwa wa corona ni kwa kunawa mkono.
The beneficiaries from Ronda, Kaptembwa and Bondeni slums in Nakuru and the sprawling Karagita estate in Naivasha were gifted with 5 tanks of 10,000 liters each, 15 cartons of bar soaps and 1,500 shillings food voucher each.
We are here giving 4 tanks to this area of Ronda Kaptembwa that we are going to strategically be placed amongst the communities, and a set of soap, hand washing soap, so that they can use for washing their hand.
Purity Museo, Channel 1 News.
Well, now we want to take you live to the judiciary where we have the launch of the Judiciary Performance Management and Measurement Understandings Evaluation Reports. Let's listening to CJ David Maraga speaking now.
Honorable Muturi Kigano, my colleague the judges here present, representatives of the executive, Mr. Kiara, representatives of the HE, DPP and LSK, and all our visitors present here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good afternoon. I want to start by expressing my sincere gratitude to you all for honoring our invitation to come and witness the launch of first the 4th cycle of the Performance Management and the Measurement Understandings Evaluation Report and other reports that we are going to launch. Before I go to my speech, Honorable Muturi Kigana, I will read my speech, otherwise my people will slaughter me. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Honorable Kigano, for the great effort that you made to be here this morning. I don't know how it happened that the invitation letter was reaching him so late. but to find him here when he got the invitation letter last evening, that's great. I want to appreciate that. I also want to appreciate Honorable Kanin Kega for being here. Before we came out here, and that's the reason why we delayed a bit, we had quite some discussions with this gentleman in my office. And I'm very happy to report, they have also mentioned the discussions we have had. I'm very happy to report that we reviewed a few things and we have agreed to sit down and review a few things. I told them that the judiciary is an institution for Wanjiku. The Wanjiku they represent, and that we need to think seriously about what we need to do for them. Mr. Kigano, I want to congratulate you on your election to the position of JILAC, Parliamentary JILAC. I don't think it was just by accident. Your seniority and your involvement in the legal affairs of this nation fit you very well for the position that you have been elected to. You have just mentioned here how you were struggling to get bail for a client, but the CJ locked himself. You can rest assured that we are far, far from that kind of state. Least of all, the present CJ would never lock himself up. He would listen to you and agree or disagree with you. And I think that's the way it should be. None of the judicial officers in Kenya today, even an RM would run away from you. We are far from that, and I want to assure you that we are going to continue serving wananchi diligently. Mr. Kanini Kega, you know, excuse me to say, look, I mean, your name is very interesting. The small good one. I think you are coming to the budget committee of parliament, and as you have yourself undertaken, will help the judiciary achieve what it is required to achieve. Let me make this remark, Honorable Kega. The people of Kenya designed a constitution that the budget of all the government institutions is ultimately in parliament. It is not in the treasury. Important as the treasury is, the treasury will come before your committee and they say, look, this is the cake we have. See how you are sharing it out. I don't want to go to other issues that are being discussed at the moment, but what I want to say is this. It is your duty as the budget.
Well, there we have the Chief Justice, David Maraga, just speaking during the launch of the Judiciary Performance Management and Measurement Understandings Evaluation Report. Of course, we'll bring you details of that story in our subsequent bulletins as it is still ongoing at this time. But I want to take you straight to Rongai, where we have also another event. We have the launch of the Youth International Week there, and we have the governor of KAJIADO, Joseph Olelenku, just speaking there. Let's listen in to what he's saying.
So that we can have a conversation that ultimately will continue to create opportunities, provide direction, and enable our youth to live more fulfilling lives. So karibuni KAJIADO and feel at home. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Indeed, apologies for the poor audio in that live event. Of course, it's something that is ongoing now, but we shall, of course, connect and bring you a comprehensive story on that, which is on the launch of the Youth International Week. And we understand that we also have the CS for Environment, Mr. Keriako Tobiko, and we have also the ICT CS, Joe Musheru, in attendance in that event, which we will bring to you later on. Meanwhile, bodies of two boys who went missing 2 weeks ago in Babilioni village, KIAMBU County, were found in a borehole in Limuru. According to residents, John Njenga, a 13-year-old, and Kelvin Kariuki, 10 years old, were herding their cattle when they went missing.
Residents of Bibilioni village, KIAMBU County, are yet to come to terms with the mysterious death of two boys in their area. Bodies of John Njenga, a 13-year-old, and Kelvin Kariuki, 10, were found floating in a well 2 weeks after they went missing. The two were herding family cattle when they disappeared. Confirming the incident, Area Chief Michael Kang'ethe says the body of the two, who were Class 8 pupils at Umoja Njenga Primary School, were discovered by children who were herding cattle.
Moja akapeleka buzi nyumbani, au wengine sijui kama walirudi hapa kutafuta hizo nini.
Wanaenda huko juu upande wa Mlengeti pale kwa nini kwa bridge ile iko pale. Wakati huo mimi sijui ni nini.
Na watoto walikuwa wamekuja kucheza hapa kwa manji, na ndio waliambia watu wasema wale walikuwa karibu, na wakaenda hapo na wakaenda wakaangalia na wakaona pia wakaona kulikuwa na watu wawili. Ndio watu wa kijiji wakaitana, ndio wakakunja hapa na wakaweza kutoa mili hiyo na wakaiweka hapa kando. Wakati huu tunangojea askari ndio wakuja wachukue hiyo mili, ndio waende wafanye postmortem, ndio tuhakikishe kama ni hawa watoto.
Residents now want the security apparatus to conduct thorough investigation to find out the cause of the death of the two children. Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
More than 12,000 plot owners in KAJIADO County's urban centers have been issued with new generation allotment letters following rampant unscrupulous land grabbing cases in the county. County government says the area has continuously experienced cases of local leaders undertaking multiple plot allocations in the county's satellite towns.
A total of 12,657 plots spread out in 26 satellite towns and trading centers within KAJIADO County have undergone a validation process.
We have officially, therefore, today launched the issuance of over 12,000 allotment letters in all towns that were certified to have met the conditions of making sure that the problem of double allocation have been resolved. And so soon people of KAJIADO will have allotment letters that have enhanced security features, even to warrant them to use as collateral in our banking system.
A move that the county's lands department begs on to reduce cases of illegal multiple land allocations that are seen unsuspecting buyers duped.
Kumekuwa na unyang'anyi maplot, na sasa tukipata ploti mpya tunadhani kutakuwa salama na tutakuwa na shida. Tunapatiwa loan tufanye kazi yetu. Kwa sisi wa mama tunakuwa tunaumia, sisi wa mama kipekee, mashida zetu itakuwa mzuri sasa tukipata maploti ikiwa na barua mzuri.
Governor Joseph Olelenku says the issuance of the new generation allotment letters is yet another milestone on a sector that defines KAJIADO's economy.
Kuna watu wengi ambao badala ya kuamka kwenda kufanya kazi zao, ile kazi wanaenda kufanya ni kwenda kunyang'anyana mambo ya plots. Na walienda to the extent kwamba walikuwa wanashikana na officers kwa ndani ya government. Na to Your Excellency, thank you so much because you have been very firm. Na ukora ndani ya offices ni kama imeisha.
This comes as a relief to many plot owners who from time and again have gone to courts, to arbitration areas, and sometimes even had physical fights to resolve their problem.
The move has given a sigh of relief to more than 12,000 plot owners within KAJIADO's urban centers. Towns that experience a huge influx of buyers from Nairobi such as Namanga, Ngatataek, Emali, Sultan Hamoud, Rombo, Ololoitikoshi, Isinya, Ololoitokitok, Isinet, Oltepesi, Mashuuri, Sholinke and Masimba were the first to be validated.
Meanwhile, tea farmers from Nandi County are protesting the decision by tea buying companies to reduce the price from 30 shillings to 19 shillings per kilogram. The farmers have threatened to uproot the tea crops and seek alternative investments, even as the companies blame the forces of demand and supply for the changes in prices.
More than 3,000 farmers from Kombe, Kaptel, Kapsisiwa, Kipchabo and some more tea growing regions in Nandi County converged at Chomisia Center in Nandi to air their grievances. They are protesting the decision by tea buying companies to reduce the price from 30 shillings to 19 per kilogram.
Kama wakulima tumenyanyaswa. Wao wameteremsha bei kuanzia shilingi 30 na sasa wametupatia shilingi 19 kwa bei ya majani chai, ambayo wakulima wamesema ya kwamba maneno hayo yametosha na hatutakubali mambo kama hayo.
Katika sheria ya contract, saa ile mkulima anasign ama mtu yoyote, lazima uweke kwa lugha zote mpaka mkulima anaelewa ile kitu anasign. Bei lazima irudi mpaka 30 ile yenye iko kwa agreement yenye wako nayo kwa hii factory yao.
The angry farmers said the economic challenges occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic had negatively impacted on them. Thus, any further reduction of tea prices will only worsen the situation.
Mbeleni walikuwa wamekata ses, na hiyo ses hajarudisha. Pia ya mbolea walikata pesa, lakini mpaka wa sasa hao wakulima hawajarudishiwa pesa.
But the management from the Kipchabo tea factory attributed the challenges in prices to the forces of demand and supply. The farmers would hear none of the arguments, threatening to uproot the tea bushes and seek alternative investments which could give them promising returns.
Well, at about 20 minutes past the hour, we'd like to take our first short quick break, but we'd also like to thank Benedict Demabior and Dennis Mutoko for engaging us on social media. Let's have that break.
The Elephants of Ivory Coast gave quite a fight, but they could not match past the Pharaohs of Egypt, who are made to sweat before lifting their 5th Africa Cup of Nations trophy.
It's failed by the goalkeeper, and somehow he survives, but is the ball going to go in? It finally does. A good man for the job, I'd say, and he's done it. Egypt 4 the fourth time, are African champions.
We revisit Cairo this Saturday at 5 p.m. with the final of the 2006 Africa Cup of Nations, only on KBC Channel 1. On the next episode,
a lot has been said about the National Youth Service. Granted. But President Uhuru Kenyatta's quest for this institution to be a center that nurtures the youth of this country to serve their nation remains grounded.
The president told us clearly there will never be an NYS3.
Giving opportunity.
Ninashukuru Mungu, without NYS nisingekuwa ninajua kufanya hizi vitu zenye mnaziona mbele yenu.
Leaving a positive mark.
Yeah, I've been taught to do everything in a garment.
Watch it on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
on the next episode of Corner.
Did you know that the Greeks believed that the love goddess Aphrodite named the rose?
This is not why I'm here. Nilikuwa kuja hapa kusaidia na amani. Hakuna kitu imechange kati yetu.
Tunaweza try.
I have to go.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Wait, you work here too?
Oh, of course I work here. That was then, and now I am in class.
What do you mean class?
You are in for a rough ride, my friend.
Kamene, buckle up. It's gonna be rocky.
Hey.
You have got to be kidding me.
Mwalimu, they are just lying. I cannot be pregnant.
You are pregnant.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, KIAMBU Governor James Nyoro has urged senators to pass the Division of Revenue Bill so that counties can receive their allocation on time. Nyoro said most of the devolved functions entirely require funding and a delay might ground to the halt service provision.
Speaking in Lari, Nyoro said Kenya spends over 300 billion shillings on food imports and noted that if the money could be utilized equitably, food scarcity would be a thing of the past.
We are spending close to 300 billion shillings to import food from outside this country. 300 billion. We cannot feed ourselves on wheat. We cannot feed ourselves on rice. We don't have enough sugar. All of those commodities, you can go on and on. We are importing, even onions, we are importing from Tanzania. Reason, we have not put money into agriculture.
He asked senators to set aside politics and think of their counties as residents are waiting for services.
And it is true. There are areas that are more disadvantaged than others. Lakini, tuweke formula ya equalization fund so that they are compensated and then, but the counties that are having more people are compensated because it is more people who are given more services.
The governor further added that KIAMBU and other counties have not received their share of allocation since June and could hinder health service provision and especially the management of COVID-19. For Channel 1 News, I'm Ben Troinjue.
Elsewhere, at least 3,000 women and youth groups in Machakos County have received financial support from national government affirmative action in a bid to cushion them during the hard economic times occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking during the issuance of checks and distribution of water tanks to the groups, Machakos County MP Joyce Kameme As Kasimbi urged the government to increase NGAAF funding for more impact in the rural economies and empower clients. The revolving fund supports women and youth in group formations to build their incomes and the grassroots. The group's majority undertaking table banking, poultry keeping and border businesses at the rural areas.
Ngana kwa vikundi ili wakafaidike na hizi misaada.
Hizi pesa zimetusaidia sana kama wamama, hata sana wakati huu wa corona ambao hata mambo ya kufunga kuku imekuwa ni shida, tunakosa chakula, saa hii imetumbusti.
Tumepata pesa kutoka kwa mheshimiwa 5,000 ya kutusaidia. Hizo pesa zitatusaidia kwa kuendeleza kikundi yetu ya disability.
Kama anaweza kuangalia wale wa mama physically disabled, kama kunaweza kupatiwa hata ikiwa kwa kila sub count wanapewa kama 10, wakipatiwa at least tunashukuru sana.
Ndio tunasema hii mradi kwa serikali yetu ya Kenya na sasa Machakos count kama mama wa count anaweza ongezewa pesa za kupanua hii mradi ili tuwe sisi akina mama wale wa kiwango cha chini wewe wanaweza kufikia hii mradi wajifunie hii mradi kama vile tumejifunia.
Target yetu ilikuwa at least to reach to 3,000 families na saa hii tunakaribia 2,000. I'm sure by next round tukienda hata target tunaona demand imekuwa nyingi ya around 10,000, but tutaendelea, tutaweka hii mradi kama pilot nini, tutaendelea pole tukiongeza.
Meanwhile, angry residents in Beirut expressed their disappointment at the government over what they say was negligence that led to Tuesday's huge explosion. Many have accused the authorities of corruption, neglect and mismanagement. Lebanon President Michael Aoun said the blast was caused by 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate stored unsafely in a warehouse.
A 2-week state of emergency has begun in Lebanon following the Tuesday's blast in the capital Beirut that killed at least 137 people and injured about 5,000 others, while dozens are still missing. Residents have expressed anger at the government over what they described as negligence of the highest order that led to the deadly tragedy. On Wednesday, the government announced that a number of Beirut port officials were placed under house arrest pending an investigation into the explosion. Security forces have sealed off a wide area around the blast site, and rescuers have been looking for bodies and survivors under the rubble while boats search the waters of the coast. Elsewhere, Hiroshima is today marking the 75th anniversary since the dropping of the world's first atomic bomb. But memorial events were scaled up this year because of the pandemic. And former U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama has said she's suffering from low-grade depression because of the pandemic, racial injustice, and the hypocrisy of the Trump administration. She said she has had difficulties with her exercise routine and sleep. She made the comments during the second episode of her eponymous podcast, for which she was interviewing U.S. journalist Michelle Norris.
Welcome to Business. Businesses in the Mount Kenya and Northern Kenya regions are being encouraged to tap the newly refurbished Nairobi-NANYUKI railway to ferry cargo to the area since it is cheaper and safer mode of transport. Now, Petroleum Principal Secretary Andrew Kamau says the use of a railway to transport petroleum products reduces the risks associated with road transport. Vivo Energy Kenya was the first firm to ferry fuel on the Nairobi-NANYUKI railway. Well, that story will come a bit later, but for now, let's look at this next story where Kenya Power and Lighting Company is to embark on a 459 million shillings worth street lighting program to support a 24-hour operating system within KISII town and its environs. County Business Manager Zachary Opapa has, however, warned of dire consequences for vandals eyeing the 200-lantern project.
The street lighting project will see 54 million shillings spent within KISII town alone, while 240 million shillings will be spent in other towns in a decision that has been welcomed by businesses who note that it will support working round the clock.
We've received a consignment of more than 200 lanterns to be used in KISII county alone.
A key challenge, however, remains vandalism that mainly targets power, communication and road signage material for sale as scrap metal.
We faced a challenge of most of the residents don't want to come out, where we've identified some vandalized materials, and this has really hampered our duties.
Elsewhere, Kitui County Government targets to boost honey production through capacity building of farmers. Already 100 trainees of trainers and 10 county agricultural officers have completed their program at the National Beekeeping Society.
Wakati nilikuwa nasikia zamani, nilikuwa naona hii kazi ni ya wanaume. Lakini wakati nilianza kusoma, nikagundua kweli hii kitu niko na faida kwa kina mama.
Kwa hivyo ningetaka kuwauliza watu wote wa Kitui County pale walipo, muangalie zile cooperatives za asali ziko karibu na wewe, ujiunge nayo, maana hii ndio tunataka ikuwe cash crop kabisa ya Kitui County, maana asali yetu inasifika dunia mzima.
Water access challenges, unreliable rainfall and unpredictable food prices has seen more and more farmers embracing beekeeping as a source of livelihood.
Na asali kidogo inaweza kava hata hiyo mahindi ungelipanda na ikufanyie jambo plan. Kwa hivyo heri mtu anayefunga nyuki.
Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Mike Pompeo has outlined the steps he hopes will be taken so that U.S. companies take a deal with what he terms as untrusted Chinese apps. The measures go far beyond President Donald Trump's current push to force the sale of TikTok to Microsoft. Details of this and others in our international business wrap.
United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says apps like TikTok and WeChat pose significant threats to the personal data of American citizens. The announcement marks a further deterioration in relations between Washington and Beijing. The U.S. government argues that such apps harvest the data of U.S. citizens and could be exploited by the Chinese Communist Party, which Beijing has denied. One of the significant steps involves the removal of untrusted Chinese apps from United States app stores, along with clamping down on cloud computing providers. U.S. officials have long complained that Chinese intellectual property theft has cost the economy billions of dollars in revenue and thousands of jobs, which Beijing has consistently denied. Elsewhere, the UK economic slump because of COVID-19 will be less severe than expected, but its recovery will also take longer, the Bank of England has said. It expects the economy to shrink by 9.5% in 2020. While this would mark the biggest annual decline in 100 years, it compares with an initial estimate of a 14% contraction. However, the bank warned that the jobs market recovery would take longer as it held interest rates at 0.1%. In its first official forecast since the pandemic hit, the bank said the recovery had been earlier and more rapid than it had assumed in May, reflecting a faster easing of lockdown restrictions. It said spending on clothing and household furnishings was now back to pre-COVID levels, while consumers have carried on spending more on food and energy than before the lockdown. However, it said leisure spending and business investment remained subdued, which would weigh on the recovery. Finally, South African mobile operator MTN Group has announced plans to fold operations in the Middle East over medium term. The telco expects to start the process with the sale of its 75% stake in MTN Syria is it focuses investments in Africa. According to the announcement made Thursday during the half-year results, MTN is in advanced discussions to sell the stake in MTN Syria to Teleinvest, which is the minority shareholder in MTN Syria with a 25% holding. The Middle East assets, which also include operations in Afghanistan and Yemen, contributed less than 4% to group earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization in the first half ended June 30th. The group also has a 49% minority holding in Iran Cell.
On to an earlier story now. Businesses in the Mount Kenya and Northern Kenya regions are being encouraged to tap the newly refurbished NAIROBI-NANYUKI railway to ferry cargo to the area, since it is cheaper and safer than any other mode of transport. At this time, Petroleum Principal Secretary Andrew Kamau says use of railway to transport petroleum products reduces the risks associated with local transport. Vivo Energy Kenya was the first firm to ferry fuel on the NAIROBI-NANYUKI railway.
In December 2016, Kenyans woke up to horrific news of death and chaos after a vehicle ferrying inflammable materials lost control, ramming into oncoming vehicles at the Karai area along the Nairobi-Naivasha highway. This is in addition to another fatal accident in 2009 at the Sachangwan area along the Nakuru-Eldoret highway involving a truck ferrying petroleum products.
One of the things that the government is doing is to designate Nanyuki as a fuel pricing point. That way you can now count from here to where the petrol stations will be, and then we have the full benefit of this installation. And other people who want to also invest in fuel stations from here.
With the operationalization of the newly refurbished Nairobi-Nakuru railway, the government hopes to mitigate such risks as well as lower the cost of cargo transport.
Most of the lines are here, the railway lines are here. That indicates that fuel used to be moved by rail, which is really the cheapest way to move fuel if you don't have a pipeline.
Kenya Railway says they have reduced charges to encourage businesses in the Mount Kenya and Northern Kenya regions to embrace transport cargo via the refurbished railway.
As it is ourselves, we are ready. We want to run a rake of eight coaches from Nairobi to Nanyuki. The 8 coaches are ready.
Vivo Kenya plans to ferry 15 million litres of fuel monthly from Nairobi to their depot in Nanyuki.
This is a natural place for you, for example, to receive your goods. If you have containerized cargo, it is far more efficient to pick it here in Nanyuki, say, as opposed to the city.
Laikipia Governor Derito Mureithi said the refurbished railway will open a new chapter in the region's economy. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And now, if you're just joining us, welcome to the interactive segment of the program. Today, we are privileged to be joined by Dr. Roland Roberts, who is a business leader from the United States and also leading a delegation from Transform Africa, just to speak to us about businesses and how they've been impacted at this time by the coronavirus pandemic. Welcome to the program. Welcome on set, Doctor.
Thank you, sir. Great to be with you.
Indeed, straight onto it, the World Trade Organization has noted this period as an unprecedented point in time where businesses have been disrupted. At which point do we start now thinking of, coming back online and people recovering from such a scourge?
Yeah, well, I think the first step is realizing that we are in an economic war. We've been focused on the bio war for months now, creating an economic war, creating culture wars, creating cyber wars, that we have only been fighting one of the 5 or 6 wars that we're actually engaged in right now. And as you know, the very first step to winning any war is to know who your enemy is. And so I think when we start looking at this economically, we have to be very intentional. And of course, that starts with empowering and enabling small businesses, SMEs, and in large enterprises, industries that have been especially disaffected and disengaged because of COVID. And there are certainly specific measures that we can take to do that.
Maybe perhaps for the benefit of our viewers as well, speak about Transform Africa and What do we hope to see from Transform Africa, especially now when statistics that were released by our central bank say that about 70% of small businesses will collapse at this time if there are no mitigation measures?
Sure, great question. So let me take the first. On Transform Africa, I started Transform Africa to address the social transformation that is part of the agendas of the African nations, and also the economic transformation, and then the political transformations that all of Africa is seeking to make at this time, maybe by 2030 or 2050, depending on the country. And so Transform Africa, we have the water, the infrastructure, the roads, the SMEs, the agribusiness, the construction, the ability to fund all of these projects from the very lowest to the highest. We have empowerment programs. We have programs specifically for men to be men, teaching them and helping them to be the husbands, the fathers, and the workers and skilled that they should be, and women, specific programs for them, for healthcare, for education, and for helping them in their enterprises. And so we have specific programs and tracks for all of these, and specific funding tracks as well to support them on an ongoing measure. So the African Funding Tour is part of Transform Africa. We will be in 6 countries over the next 30 days, and we've actually funded 26 Kenyan companies over the last 2 days as part of this tour, the highest being $1 million USD. And so we are thrilled to be welcomed by all of these governments at such an unprecedented time. And of course, with 3 of the countries even still on lockdown, but they recognize that we are in an economic war, and that Transform Africa is a solution for that. And so to your question and remarks about the World Trade Organization and the statistics of 70%, no, I think that's exactly accurate. And I actually view this as it's a big purge. It's a great purge. It purges companies, and there are many casualties as well. As sad as it is, because it breaks my heart every time I ever drove by a business and it said out of business or closed. It always broke my heart, because I know what it's like starting at the very bottom with absolutely nothing, sleeping in a car for months and months. I know what it's like as an entrepreneur starting with nothing and then growing and growing and growing. And so to see someone lose their dream or lose their life savings, it does grieve me. But I can tell you this. 9 out of 10 businesses fail on a good day without COVID. That's why you start 10 businesses, right? You don't stop. You don't quit. You don't use it as an excuse. In fact, it should build more character, more resiliency in you, and you start again, and you start better. You start smarter. You think about these things. You innovate. And quite frankly, you have an unprecedented opportunity, because this leveled the playing field. Large companies and small companies have to change the rules of the game, and you get to help create those.
Indeed, that is a very good news for business continuity for the small businesses, given that many of them usually suffer from challenges, even the most basic one, which is starting capital. Where you sit is a unique perspective. As you go around the continent and wherever you go to Transform Africa, do you find that there is sufficient legislation and policy to guide your activities even at these times of unprecedented disruptions?
Yes. No, I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and that's one of the reasons that Transform Africa, I started the African Diplomatic Entrepreneur Summit at the request of the United Nations. And part of that was because we had to bring the political leaders together with private enterprise, because there are gaps and there are divides, and we all live in our silos and our bubbles, and we have to break out of that and get the right voices of the right people in the room to be able to acknowledge, here's the red tape that's keeping me from being able to double or triple my sales, which impacts your ability to tax me and receive more revenue. And then on the other hand, we need entrepreneurs who are more engaged with following government protocol. And so that when I see even many business unregistered, even in Kenya, as a way of doing it, there's a lot of lost tax revenue. So I think it's a mutual respect and a mutual conversation and dialogue that we uniquely are bringing to the table with the annual African Diplomatic Entrepreneur Summit.
That's very interesting indeed. You did speak of the Kenyan companies that you have impacted, and you mentioned that you have also injected at least 1 million or as much as $1 million US. Perhaps you could speak to the continuity with which you will continue with these businesses? Will you inject and then give them capacity building along the way, or how will it happen going down the line?
Yes, great question. So it's not just a hit and run and give them money and leave. I think, in fact, I started and told most of these enterprises, I spent over 30 hours with them in June on Zoom before I took the risk of flying internationally to an airport that was locked down. I was fortunate to be here on opening day and one of the first American citizens being able to greet to this soil. And so it's just a blessing to be here, and I thank God for that. But I told them prior that most of them do not need money to grow. Most of the businesses here did not need money to grow. What they needed was the right strategies and the partnerships, the right alliances. They needed the fruit exporters, the international relationships, the platforms. Many of them were seeking hundreds of thousands of dollars USD investment to build software platforms that we already have, and some of which that cost $30 per month, and they can use. And so it was shifting a lot of the mindsets. We probably had 6 companies, agribusinesses, that each wanted to create their own processing plant and wanted $1 million or $2 million for that or more. And so obviously that is silly to create for every enterprise to create their own plant. And so what we did is we're working on having one plant that all of our fruit exporters, and whether it's mulberry trees or avocados, a lot of avocado businesses, or fruit and bananas and so forth. So we'll have a central processing plant for all of them to be able to use. And that's the kind of impact that we want to have. Through Timeless, one of our partners here in Africa, they have a legal and business analysts that work with all of the enterprises with me to help get them ready for funding, and then they stay with them throughout the year as their consultants and advisors at no additional charge, just to be a part of the process, make sure they're successful.
In Kenya, for example, we have had disruptions majorly in the horticultural sector and the tourism sector. Businesses in that space have really suffered a lot, even in the transport side, especially the airline side. Bringing to the question, which sector in particular have you got yourself involved in, and where does it go from here? Which other sectors are you bringing under your wing going forward?
Yes. The answer is there is no specific sector. We're helping people from all walks of life and all sectors. But I will tell you the 2 areas that I have concentrated the most, and that is in helping governments with cybersecurity and artificial intelligence defense systems. The 3 greatest advancements in human warfare was ammunition, number 1, nuclear, number 2. The third is artificial general intelligence. I was privileged last night to spend about an hour, and we made part of our conversation public with the chairman of artificial intelligence, formerly at the Pentagon. And so we were discussing the global implications of artificial intelligence, and many, Elon and Musk and Bill Gates being a couple, have grave concerns over humanity reaching AGI, and whoever reaches that first, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has said, will rule the world. We do not disagree with that. So we are in an aggressive, it's an aggressive race to who achieves that first. So I'm working with several even of the African governments while I'm here on some of those national security initiatives.
My goodness, artificial intelligence, another interesting topic that we can go on and talk about for hours and hours. But going forward, people, everyone you ask, when you ask them about post-COVID, they are not sure, they are not certain. What do you see in coming months, even as countries look to angle themselves to persevere through this time, because of course the vaccine is not yet out? How will we go forward?
Well, I think the first step in going forward is to go forth courageously. I think fear causes the body to freeze. It causes your brain to shut down, and you will not think clearly, and you will not innovate, and thus you will make bad policies if you are on government, or you will make bad business decisions if you're in the private sector. So you go forth courageously. Unfortunately, people like a do this, do that. They don't like the answers where it says you have to be something different. But I can tell you that success always comes from being, not doing. That we like the action because it's about us. It's selfish, it's prideful, it's arrogant, it's ego. We did it. We made it happen. We overcame. And while there is a unifying effect I hope that the unifying effect from this is that we love one another more, we care about one another more, we're kinder to people, we give people a little bit more grace. And I think if we approach business and life with a little bit more temperance, then I think we will be able to think clear. I promise the market will receive you better as a business owner, a business executive. The market will receive you better if you have that kind of a spirit. The dictatorships are not that exciting to people. It's not as welcomed. We like it to be seasoned with grace, and I think how we speak to people is critical. But you be very wise. You be very discerning. I think that this private sector and public sector, we don't have a job that is called discerners. But quite frankly, that's the difference between you succeeding or going bankrupt. It is the ability to discern, the ability to perceive, the ability to observe, and then to make strategic moves based on that. How do you make moves in an unpredictable future, but to a predictable outcome? And that is the work that we do at Transform Africa with both governments and enterprises.
Indeed, that is valuable information. But finally, what will be the rallying call, even especially to perhaps partners that you're looking into? What's the rallying call to like-minded special purpose vehicles like yours at this time?
Well, the clarion call is that those who are seeking to move forward will be attracted to Transform Africa and what we're doing here. And then those that prefer to complain about COVID, those who just you talk about how bad it is or what happened, that they will not be attracted because we are very forward-looking. We take adversity and believe that adversity is the very thing we need to fly higher. The higher a bird flies, he has to have more resistance. The only way a plane gets off the ground is by going against the wind. You need the resistance in order to grow. And so the more people like-minded that we are able to help see, you do not have to be a victim. You can be a victor. You are more than conquerors. And there's a way to do it. And we hope to help each one that desires a better future for themselves and their family to join us. I mean, this is unprecedented, what we are doing. And we are making history with both Transform Africa, the African Funding Tour. This part has never been done, especially a 6-country tour where they all came together to support these efforts. Over 700 African enterprises will be benefited 25 days from now. So that's been a great honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We have been speaking to Dr. Roland Roberts, who is a business leader from the United States of America and also heading Transform Africa. We appreciate you being with us here today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, of course, we were just talking about the business climate and the call and impact of COVID-19 on businesses. And what we gather from this conversation as well is that there is need for more wealth maximization rather than a profit maximization on the side of the people who can afford to weather the storm. And now we move into sports now, where Harambee Stars midfielder Johanna Omolo has signed a one-season deal with a Belgium club, Cercle Brugge. Cercle Brugge, the 31-year-old Kenyan international who joined the club in 2017, is entering his fourth football year at the club. Omolo, who turned 31 last week, has already played for Cercle 59 times since 2017 when he joined the club. Omolo, who is capped 19 times for the national team, Harambee Stars, featured in 12 matches for the club in the 2019-2020 campaign. He has played for several clubs in Kenya, Belgium and Luxembourg, among them Coast Stars, Visevola Est, Bistroch and Lomen United, and received his first call-up to Harambee Stars in September 2010, making his debut for the country in 2011. Elsewhere, Manchester United came from behind to beat Austrian side LASK 2-1 at Old Trafford, advancing to the quarter-finals of the Europa League 7-1 on aggregate. Anthony Martial came off the bench to score the winner 4 minutes from time, collecting Juan Mata's precise through ball before finishing off his 23rd goal of the season from 10 yards. Earlier, Mata also provided the assist for Jess Lingard to score for the second consecutive game. In other results, goals from Romelu Lukaku and Christian Eriksen saw Inter Milan beat Getafe to reach the Europa League quarterfinals. Shakhtar Donetsk beat Wolfsburg by 3-0, while FC Copenhagen thrashed Istanbul Basaksehir 3-0. 4 matches will be played tonight as Sevilla lock horns with Roma and Wolves battle it out with Olympiacos. Basel will play against Frankfurt as Bayer Leverkusen play against Rangers. A joy and an honor to be with you this time at KBC Lunchtime News. Unfortunately, we have to end it here. Our sign language interpretation has been done by Lensa Odingo. My name is Allan Aoko. Whatever you do, make it profitable. Goodbye.